I'm Mango Thunderslice, and today's video is UFO, off-world intelligence and aerial phenomena. And this is this is a very interesting time. Apparently, a couple days ago, on July 27th or 28th, the Pentagon released kind of some more information pertaining to the UFO phenomenon, or as they're now calling the unidentified aerial phenomenon. Even though there are, of course, unidentified submarine phenomenon, UFOs as they are collectively known in the modern parlance since the mid 20th century. They can, they can go, underwater. Like, it's the same phenomenon. But I guess it's still flying. It's not exactly a boat. But then again, maybe we should explore the modality of the boat. What exactly does a boat do? A boat uses buoyancy to displace water and basically stay above the sea, right? And find essentially, buoyancy and sort of aquastatic pressure to basically maintain one's position above the water. And then from there, there's propulsion, right, of riding the wind. So let's explore that. You put up a sail, you open up essentially a screen or a film that is able to catch the wind, the air, the moving air, and thus you can guide that mast, or guide those sails on the mast, essentially capturing that kinetic energy from the moving wind. So let's explore, basically the gravitational phenomenon, because everything seems very, difficult in this world until you realize the nature of gravity and the nature of energy. And I think, Ken Wheeler does probably a better job of anybody on YouTube at explaining this in correct terminology. I feel myself to be an adjunct to himself and performing the same function on this planet, although with just a slightly different focus, right? Whereas, Mr. Wheeler has never indulged in any mind-altering substances. I, on the other hand, have entered many different realms, both through just regular lucid dreaming and from, experiences both in this dimension and others, right? And it's hard to say more about that in the English language, but one thing you realize is that there is the world of the forms, as, Plato or Aristotle used to talk about back in ancient Greece, that beyond this world of physicality, there is a world of forms, and that is a universal structure, right? The grand unified theory, nothing was ever separated until basically we separated it. It's always been unified, as Ken points out in a recent great video of if extraterrestrial intelligence came to this planet and, gave a report card and an analysis of this species, it's pretty perfect. Basically humans have separated everything and made everything so complicated that you can't see the truth right in front of your faces. And so this is where we'll get into the UFO phenomenon, and I've mentioned in several videos back in the original ether physics videos that, when I was a kid, about 7 years old, I saw a UFO in broad daylight. I mean, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of UFOs at nighttime, as far as just lights, faint lights moving through the sky. And there's different caliber of those as well. There's the absolute bright light, the visible light, and then there's a sort of different kind of light. It's almost like a cloaked craft or something. It's like a faint blue, just energy that I feel like I have been able to witness ever since I completed my sun-gazing training. And, plenty of reasons for people to write me off and say that I'm insane, but, my work speaks for itself, and I haven't even begun yet. I am just at the very beginning. If you think what Elon Musk did in sending up the Crew Dragon, spacecraft to the ISS and then bringing them back, very impressive. Basically it looks a lot more legit than, the rocket, launches back in the day. And, not casting any aspersions is a tremendous milestone for private spacecraft to be able to complete such a task. And so this is really where we get into the next phase, because if you think Elon is doing some cool stuff, my friends, you have seen nothing yet. And, one of my goals in life is for our project that me and my team are working on to basically completely eclipse Tesla and SpaceX, and for them to be coming to want to work with us rather than the reverse. But, and everything geopolitically aligns with this, right, over the whole conflict with China and the nature of technology in this world with rare earth metals. in their extraction and high cost nature of such processes, and also the vulnerability of all of the technology that we have made with such processes to the space weather events that we are expecting, in the true science, not the fake, fraudulent global warming science. That this planet has experienced radiation storms in the past, blasts of energy from the sun, or, hypothetically from some other part of the cosmos. But again, even if energy comes from some other part of the cosmos, the sun is our representative of that transformer, right? It's the transforming station next to our domicile. And when galactic energy comes through, you will see it on the sun. The sun will react, and that will trigger a secondary and tertiary order effects of energy output and bursts of energy at the Earth and the other planets. And, as Ben Davidson over at Suspicious Observers has pointed out and is building, a very solid case for, along with, the hundreds of thousands of other good faith people on this planet who are, proceeding in truth to find the actual nature of reality in this world, that the sun, our sun, is most likely a recurrent micronova star, meaning that every few thousand years it releases that blast, and it kind of wipes the slate clean on this planet in a lot of ways. And it's a very, very scary time to be around. We have these ancestral memories of tidal waves and of continents ripping apart, and of Atlantis sinking beneath the waves, and Hyperborea being destroyed, and this exodus of people, right? Our entire historical sequence is a consequence of events and actions that are outside of the human realm. And that doesn't make them extraterrestrial realm either. It means that there is an order and a structure and a plot line of this universe, and there has been a definitive evolution of which we have the records, known as our ancient mythology, and we poo-poo it, and we treat that as nothing, a bunch of naked savages trying to make sense out of the world by ascribing it to the big man in the sky with the sun chariot, But I take a higher view of our ancestors, and I place more weight on the meaning of the stories that were told by ancient, scholars like Plato and many others about Atlantis and Hyperborea and global civilization. It predated the cataclysm roughly about 10 to 12,000 years ago. And so the story goes, according to, the Suspicious Observers group, is that, it's most likely, and this is from CIA declassified documents, that they know that there is a catastrophe cycle on this planet. And this almost begs the question of, is that why we're maxing out the credit card? Is that why we're running the financial system into basically the red and just basically getting as much, tangible things accomplished in this world, when we know that on some level the entire thing will be knocked down to the ground, down the line, and so we might as well just get everything in place before that happens. It's like if a hurricane is coming, like, does it really, like the biggest hurricane you've ever seen, and you max out the credit card bill, like, defending your home and fortifying your structure, is it more important to not have credit card debt, or is it more important to defend your home against the world's largest hurricane that may destroy your entire city, right? That's kind of the metaphor that we're facing with this, galactic cosmic, interface, and the changing of the guard and the catastrophe cycle, is that, there will be a return to normalcy, there will be a return to sound money, but it's not going to be through reasoned debate and we all came to a political compromise. Like, this is, as I've said many times to commenters who, wonder about, Trump's motivation and position within this whole thing and what exactly is the long game. This train rides until it breaks, my friends. There is no going back in terms of political compromise for the monetary system. It has always been designed to go down this track, and the best that we can do is position ourselves and our loved ones, as beneficially as possible for the reset and the changes that we know are inevitable, right? And precious metals are a part of that, cryptocurrency is a part of that, real assets are a part of that, all the B's, of bullets, Bitcoin, bullion, and just basically food, water, air, lead, basically, and gold is the full spectrum of cosmic values in a short list. But that is really what we're facing. And amidst all of this massive societal shift that we've seen in the 20th century going into the 21st, we've also seen essentially this breakdown of the social fabric and a reorienting of society. We've seen programs like MK Ultra, doing mass mind control on the population, from Woodstock, where they provided the LSD to, basically all the media, the mass media that's been made since, the mid-60s. And all the while there has been this one phenomenon that's also been happening, the UFO phenomenon. People have, since really the 40s, but, starting really in earnest in the 50s, many people, more in certain areas than in others, and, again, I'm from Nevada, there have been many sightings, millions and millions of sightings of craft, both in the daylight and at night, and very, what appeared to be defying the laws of physics as we know them, right? And again, I saw one in broad daylight when I was 7 years old. Me and my brother were in the backyard of our house in North Lake Tahoe, and I remember it clear as day, and my dad and his friend were on the balcony of the house looking at us, and my brother and I were looking up at them, and above the house, it looked like above the house visually, but it was, probably much higher and who knows how far away. There was this dark oval, what kind of looked like a disc, I guess, from a certain angle, but basically just almost like a dark oval. I couldn't really perceive many details of the surface of the craft, and it was just holding perfectly still in the sky. And then, we were like, whoa, hey, Dad, look at that, what's that? And, before he could even turn around, basically it went from perfectly stationary to just no acceleration, just gone. I could see that it went in a particular direction. It didn't just turn off the light switch, so to speak. It flew away at a tremendous rate of speed. And it's funny because it reminds me of when the locomotive was invented, and there were certain physicists, royal physicists, who said a locomotive can't exist as a transportation modality because the momentum and the forces, even if they were to get up to 60 miles per hour, would basically kill all the occupants, that it would be too much force and your body would be ripped apart if you were to get up to 60 miles an hour. Here I am, going at an undisclosed rate of velocity for legal purposes, but significantly in excess of 60 miles an hour, and, smooth enough to basically drive and also make a video and talk about UFOs. So I bring that up because a similar principle applies. If we were to take the conventional notion of momentum and G-forces, a craft that accelerated at that rate, like the inhabitants of the vehicle would be splattered on the wall, right? They would, that would be essentially the equivalent of getting hit by a bus going Mach 15 or something in that range. And so it's not exactly plausible to suggest that this is operating under conventional momentum physics, and that relativity, as we have known it, is really totally non-applicable to reality in itself. It is only applicable within the mathematical world that they have created, right? This pseudoscience world that masquerades as the highest science, right? These hard-nosed physicists that deal completely in mathematics and none in experimental reality, right? Tell me how hard-nosed that is. To just be at a chalkboard all day and to come up with ever more elaborate and complex, ways to not come to the end conclusion, which would be a grand unified theory that explains gravity in a causality basis, not just cos mass or cos bending space-time, which means nothing at all. If you think it does, you know nothing either, And again, I encourage you to listen to Ken Wheeler's videos. He articulates what I have been able to come to through my experience and research in a very useful way. He's a good guy. And so, so we get to the main point of the conversation, which is that the UFO phenomenon and the disclosure and the sort of alien cult has all been rolled out in concordance with this phenomenon and also with the social degeneration. And we have to raise an eyebrow when we look at the people who have been essentially promoting it, right? Lawrence Rockefeller, John Podesta, basically Lawrence Rockefeller was one of the archetypal funders of a lot of these organizations that peddled the kind of various modalities of the alien cult. And Hillary Clinton has pushed for disclosure. Harry Reid, who was Nevada's, senator and but he was the Speaker of the House for a little while, or Senate Majority Leader, rather, back when the Democrats were in control of Congress. He basically has been very pushy for a disclosure, and all of these people are swamp creatures, right? I strain to believe that this is all for their own, beneficial intents toward humanity, that they want to bring the truth to people. I think it's very shady when we look, because obviously we don't need to go into John Podesta. That's been covered extensively, but we know that John Podesta is not going to do anything out of goodwill to the general human species. And how interesting is it, from a very dark and sadistic point of view, that one of the main aspects of the UFO phenomenon has been the phenomenon of abduction, of stories of abduction, and taking people, adults as well as children, from their homes, and essentially, they get transported to this, foreign place, and, what they think to be a ship of some kind, and dealing with aliens. When you understand how advanced the mind control techniques have become, and you understand that there is a secret space program that ran with the tech that, Nikola Tesla started, and, basically it went, a black budget project, and this is where we get stories of Area 51, and all the rest, is there was a continual development of this technology and the true understanding of gravity. Meanwhile, the rest of the population was spoon-fed gruel, just a Soylent Green of basically false science spearheaded by Einstein. And so he was propped up deliberately to give us this, graham crackers and chocolate milk, while they dined, on the true course, and had the actual technology and experiments performed in total secrecy. And this is where, $7 to $10 trillion have disappeared over the course of the last 60 years. And of course, a lot of this is funded through, Euro-dollar system, and the drug trade, and the illegal arms trade, and all the things we know of as kind of the swamp on that level. Financial manipulation has all been as a part of this great grift system to cover up an actual operational sub-government, which has been developing all these things. And so as the story goes, I used to be very much involved with disclosed websites, and I had a lot of revelations through dreams and sort of memories of ancient catastrophe that kind of started me on this quest. And I absolutely do accept of the existence of extraterrestrial, off-world intelligence, cosmic intelligence. But when we talk about the UFO phenomenon and the aerial objects phenomenon, it's a leap too far just on the current evidence to say that all of the flying craft we see are the result of off-world intelligence, because ultimately, if you're an off-world intelligence that has developed sufficient psychic powers, and emerging with the ether and the underlying substrate of reality, you don't need metal craft to transport yourself anywhere, and this is where we get into the nature of paranormal and ghosts. And I think that a lot of the channeling spirit stuff is probably not entirely genuine, or at least maybe, who is to say what is genuine when if a person is channeling their own subconscious and higher self, which is a dimensional sort of different spirit from their own personal ego, perhaps speaking to one's own higher self and merging psychically and subconsciously with that sort of signal, that it might be perceived as an alien intelligence, right? An off-world intelligence. Who's really to know at a certain point? But I know that there have been a lot of very wise things said by people who are supposedly channeling, and then there have been a lot of other things that just confuse the hell out of people and scare the shit out of them. When you tell people that the world, this physical world, is going to end, and then aliens are going to come down and save everyone, and that they built the pyramids and everything. And this conversation, before I even heard about the disclosure by the Pentagon, I started thinking about this from a conversation last Friday with some associates, and basically talking about the pyramids and aliens and whatnot. And a lot of people apparently are just willing to leap to the explanation that aliens built the pyramids. Like, first of all, why would aliens have built the pyramids? And yes, they're aligned with Orion, And yes, there are these astrological configurations, and all of those are absolutely valid points. But why do we automatically have to assume that aliens built this planet? And furthermore, when we use terms like alien and extraterrestrial, who are we to assume that we, the human frame as it currently exists on this planet, is not at least in alignment with that extraterrestrial frame? That if anything, we are the extraterrestrials, or rather, if there were extraterrestrials in the conventional understanding, they would walk among us and you would not even know. I could be an alien, you wouldn't even know, but in the little gray men sense, I don't think I am an alien. But in terms of a sort of spark of higher intelligence that may have generated somewhere else in the universe, that came down to this planet at a certain point, whether through biological means or through divine, energetic, metaphysical means, I think that it ultimately means the same thing. And again, that is proof of God. As much as the alien cult tries to displace it, it is only cosmic intelligence that begat the aliens to begin with, who, even if we go with the cult, then the aliens begat the humans, and the Adamu, and the different successive races of man. But if we assume that cosmic intelligence permeates the universe, then we don't need that sort of that linear chain link causality. We can see that everything is always in constant co-development in the field of negentropy, in the field of God. That intelligence is absolutely aggregating on the etheric plane, beyond time, beyond space. There is only information. There is only intelligence. And so our great ability as a human species over all the other animal species is that we have that connection. And so as a result, we are able to transform reality to a greater degree. And, who are we to say that it was not our own ancestors, maybe they were giants, maybe they were the same size frame as ours, who built the pyramids? Who are we to say it was not the ancient druids who built these things? It is very much entirely plausible if we understand that the human civilization was in a higher state of connection with that universal cosmic intelligence, with God, if you will. Then we had the ability we understood gravity. We could cut stone essentially with lasers from technology of that time. We were able to lift stones effortlessly. We were able to nullify gravity. And, if we go with the Saturn theory and the electric universe crew, maybe there was an entirely different gravitational configuration. We look at the dinosaurs, completely impossible to exist and survive in the current gravitational environment. Same with giants. Stories of giants are plenty of giant bones, human bones, found all over the world, and they all, get quickly hidden, and basically a whole propaganda campaign is out there to hide them and discredit them. But realistically, the giants, if we accept their hypothetical reality, and the dinosaurs, which obviously they haven't hidden all the dinosaur bones, these giant monsters, could not have existed in the current gravitational environment. They would absolutely collapse. They are too large to exist here. So if there was a different gravitational environment, maybe it was a lot easier to move giant stones. Maybe it was, not only had they mastered gravity and make a lot of the ancient sites, Pumapunku down in Peru, a lot of sites down in the Americas, Bolai, a sort of extraterrestrial intelligence, or rather a high human technology, ancient technology that human race was in possession of to create these things. We don't really know, but all we have are the stories, and the stories don't say, necessarily that aliens came down and created the species. They also don't necessarily not say that when it comes to the Sumerian race. And again, I'm not necessarily opposed to the thesis. I just don't like people leaping to the explanation that little green men made the pyramids, and thus we lose all agency and memory entirely, and we start to worship this new external deity of these aliens and the technology that they bring. I am 100% opposed to that psychological frame of mind and that cult, and the people who peddle it are the most despicable people in the world, right? Of John Podesta and all the rest. There's the other side of the coin that we also have to examine, if we're being honest, which is Lawrence Rockefeller funded, the Green Earth movement or whatever, Terence McKenna's organization, talking about how psychedelics allowed, a primitive human race to connect with extraterrestrial intelligence and, develop evolutionarily. you know, that at least keeps our agency a little bit, but I still don't like the reliance on extraterrestrial intelligence to bring it to us. Again, it creates this external deity that we're expected to worship. There's more going on here, and we are the connection to the higher force, and we are the ones who likely built the pyramids. But that being said, we are also extraterrestrial of origin, and it's important to recognize that we have a lineage, we have a chain of sequence that brought us here, we have an ancestry, and we have to remember these things if we are going to be successful in the years to come. But you know, we'll continue more on that at a later time. But hope you guys are having a good one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.